Hi and welcome to another tutorial from Blender Insight, and this time I was thinking that I would show how you can find edges in a low poly model, because on a high poly we all know that we can use pointers, but it can be tricky to find them in a low poly model. However, I continued to do this model here, and then I found out that okay, I have so many tips and tricks that I would like to show that 5 minutes will not be enough. So I thought, okay, I will do a little bit longer tutorial, but I will not create everything from scratch. So if you want this blend file, then you can just go below the tutorial and click on the link to download it. So let's start from the beginning here. So this is the result, and the material looks like this. So it's not super advanced. I have not added all the small details I should do if I had done this for myself, but we have all things in here that most of you need to make a good looking wood texture. So we can start from the beginning, and by that we can just show how you make the wood. And a wood pattern is easily done by adding a wave texture and then distort it using a noise texture. So you just set the noise texture to 4 dimension, and then you take the factor from the wave texture to the W, and the result will then look something like this. And if we go closer, you can now see we get this typical pattern that you have in wood, since the noise texture will then distort the wave texture. So that is a very simple way, works almost to everything when it comes to wood. Can be that you need a few more nodes to make it perfect, but this base is really good. Then I just added some color out of that, so some green, and right now we're just working with color, so I don't have any roughness or reflection and so on, so it can be a little bit hard to see the end result until we connect it with the principal BSDF in the end. But you can see that we have some changes here where we have darker green on the veins, and that is enough for now. So now we needed also to have a logotype, so I made a logotype out of some images, and I got this result. And I was a bit lazy, so I didn't do any alpha, but I was thinking I can fix this in my shader, so I do that. So what I did here was I changed it to grayscale. You don't need that step, but I think it looks prettier. And then I took it to this less than, and if it's less than 1 and I put 0.8 just to be sure, then you get white. Other than that you get black, and that means that the result will be that we now have a clear picture out of the logotype. Then I would like to smudge that, and I just do that with noise. So I added some noise into it, and in this case I also added a map range, because to get really high contrast I limit the minimum and the maximum so they are almost the same, and then I get hard noise like this. And with that noise I can then use the white stuff here to get white on my logotype. So the result out will then be like this. So now I have smudged my logotype with the noise that I produced here. So I just use the lighten here to lighten up or to brighten the logotype a bit on these places. Then I mix the logotype with the wood texture. So if it's a logotype, I paint it some type of yellow, or else I use the wood texture that I showed you before. So the result in that case looks like this. So now we have the wood and we have the logotype, but we also need to make it look a bit uneven in the colors, and some brightness and some darkness and so on. So we have a little more to do. First of all, I would like to enhance the veins, so I do that by adding this soft light here So right now you get in more clearly where you can see all the veins here. So that is really good. And the next step is to make it darker on like the inside here on the corners or edges, and also in the bottom where I can think that being more dirt and moist and so on. And that you do with an ambient occlusion here. You can see that I use a rather short distance, and that means that it doesn't work for the complete box but only on the, with shorter distances. And right now with just the AO it can be hard to see, so we increase the contrast with the color ramp, and then you can clearly see how it works. So if it's white, then we have some ambient occlusion, and you can see now I work it on the bottom here, I work it on the inside of the handle where we get smudge, on the edges here, but also on the corners and edges down here. And if we got some ambient occlusion there, I darken it with some mixed color here, so that will then give this result here. You can now see that it's clearly darker below here, and that looks nicer, it looks more worn and as it should be. Same with the inside here where all the smudge gathered, you then get that from this ambient occlusion. However, we can also use it the other way around, so we get some brightness from the ambient occlusion where we have edges. And as I said before, this can be hard to do with low poly normally, but with ambient occlusion we have at least some help to find edges even in low poly. And in that case you use inside and only local. So only local means that no environment will temper with the result, and inside, I showed that in the lesson about subsurface scattering, will then find out the thinnest parts in your model, and with that you can then find out what should be more white. So here you can see we get darkness near the edges automatically, and this is a low poly, it's almost like a cube, so I don't have any bevel, I don't have anything else, it's just cube, so nothing extra, really low poly wood material here, but still we get a result that we can use. And then I enhance it with the color ramp, and now you can clearly see all these bright spots. So that I can then use to make the wood come out and the paint disappear and make it a little bit brighter. So with that and a green that is brighter, I lighten everything up, and now you can see we get that. Now I'm using really low poly, that means that we get it a little bit squared here, but that was more to emphasize the result that you can use low poly and it will still work. Normally we go up a little bit with some bevel and so on, but it works here as well, and that is really good. You can see we get it here with the handle, so where you lift you get a lot of paint that goes away, and you get it here where you have the wood going against each other, and then it gets more worn. So that is good to put in, and then we have that in, and the next step I do is add just a regular noise on everything. So right now it's just green, but we have some places where we have more smudge and so on, so I just add noise, and here I do as I did with the logotype, that I use a rather small amount where we have as a range where we get a big contrast out of the noise texture. So that now looks like this. So that means that we get small parts here with noise that we then can add into the result, and now it looks a lot better just by adding these small smudges of noise all over the place. So now we're almost finished, but we have a few things to do more. And one of those is to make the wood appear on some places. And I use a trick here as well. So if you look up here, this is where I would like the wood to go through. Then I can use this noise texture here, but it will be way too much to have wood all over these places. So I need to filter it in some way. And one way to do that is to use a mix color. And you put that to linear light, and the factor you put really high, and you use like a low scale noise as a filter up here. So that almost, yeah, it almost doesn't look, you have some here, it's really low, low, low. So like it filter to take away information from the noise texture here. So when you combine that in here, you can see now that you only get some of the noise that you normally had here. So this is the complete, but with that low scale and with the linear light, you have them filtered out, so we only get it in a few places. And then I use a map range to even get the contrast up even more, and then I only have these small spots left. So we get it in, and now it's up to us to then add that information into the box here. So with that we get the brightness here, that should also have some wood visible, and we get the spots where it should be clearly wood. So we combine the ambient occlusion to find the edges together with the spots here. And then we take the wood material that we started from the beginning with, and instead of using green here, as we did to get all the paint, we make some wood color instead. But we use the same pattern as we did for the green, and then we use the result that we can look at now as a mask to tell the material if it should be paint or if it should be wood. And then we combine that using the mix here, and the result will then be like this. So now we get some clear places where we have, this is wood, clearly wood, and then we have these places where it fades out a bit, so we still have paint on it, but we can see wood behind. So then we have got everything like that, and the final little step I did was to add another color above everything, just in a random way, to make some stains and other stuff that can come to this wooden crate here. So just simple noise, and as usual some contrast fixing using the map range. So always like that, noise texture and a map range. It works very well. And then I just put that in here. So first of all you can look at the noise, but it's just noise, nothing to be proud of, just noise. And that I use to mix, so either we get the old material that we had, the texture and everything, or we get these brown spots where it's white here. So the result will then look like this. We get all these white spots, oh sorry, brown spots here. And now it's finished, and we just take that to the principled, and when we do that we then get this result. The only thing left for us to do is to connect it with the normal, and what I do then is that I take the wood pattern that then will give all the bumps for the wood plates here, and I subtract that with the noise that we used for getting out the clear wood, so that will have then a lower value, so the wood will be below the paint. And then I add some values to the bump, not too much but still something so we can see it, and put that into the normal, and then we get everything like this. So that is a lot of small tips and tricks, and I have not added any big thoughts on my metal here, so I will not go through that, or the nails that I used here. You can certainly do a lot more with that material. So it's just now, it just looks like this. So you can do whatever you want with that, see how good your skills are, add some ambient occlusion around the nails perhaps, and some damage and so on. It's up to you. But now you have learned a little bit how everything works here. I think the only thing I didn't show you was how I UV map this with the logotype. We can go through that as well. So we had a logotype here, and what I did was I took both of these objects here. They are like separate objects, and then I just went to tab and went so I could look at it straight like this, and then just select UV and project from view bounds, and then I get that information. When first of all I selected those, of course, so I was interested to use these, so I selected those, and then I used the UV project from view bounds, and then I get this one, and then it's just to scale that so I got the Prips logotype in a good way, and I added that in a separate UV map that I call Prips, since that was the logotype, and that is what I then used as a UV map here. So this is purely for the Prips logotype, so everything that is not included in that logotype, meaning for instance the back of or the inside here. So we have the logotype here, and we have the logotype here, but we do not have it on the inside. All those things that was outside and should not be used, I just took them outside, so they are outside the range for the Prips here, and then I put the image to clip so we don't repeat it. This is the standard, and that doesn't look good because we repeat it. So if we put it to clip, then we get only this and nothing more. So then you know how to do that as well. And that was all for me today, and hopefully you learned something today as well. And as I said in the beginning, if you want the file, just download it, because we have the link down here.